Welcome back to the Backseat Startup Podcast, where we give unsolicited advice to strangers on the internet.
Today we have a cutting-edge new technology that is aimed at reducing communication barriers for travelers. AwayTogether CEO Melanie Brewer and CEO John Beuchert are based out of cold Erie, Pennsylvania, but are looking forward to discussing more with us where their technology is currently launched, the Caribbean. Melanie, can you give us a little background into AwayTogether?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Luke, for having us on the phone call or the podcast. So what AwayTogether is, a few years ago, John and I were in the Caribbean and this torrential downpour came through the island. And it was, thankfully, on the last leg of our trip. And John said to me, this is dumb. Why can't we talk to Rose and Joe, were their names, Rose and Joe that we've met at the swim-up bar and, you know, all of these different experiences that you have on vacation, and then these people just kind of go away. So as we started to develop our application, we really truly realized that not only is the person-to-person contact while on vacation important, but the security behind it is even probably more important. So currently, people can access Facebook groups and say, hey, what's your favorite location in Barbados, or what's your favorite restaurant? But it's not really that secure, right? Anybody can see where you're going to be or where you're not going to be. So AwayTogether is not only a communication tool for guest-to-guest communication, but it's truly a sustainable method for the accommodations to send out messages to the guest staying at the accommodation. So, hey guys, so sorry, fish of the day is now changed. Literally, instead of 50 paper notices under hotel room doors, accommodations can send one message out to all of their guests.
Thank you so much for that, Melanie. I'm really excited for this technology. I think it has so many use cases, from venues to events. I was telling John and Melanie off air that I just recently got married, and this platform would have made the day go a whole lot smoother. So thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really excited to chat with you all. So you know the drill. This is the podcast where we give unsolicited advice to strangers on the internet. We will pull up Reddit. We'll find a question posed by a founder, and we'll bounce some ideas off each other. You all set?
All set.
Excellent.
Great. Let's do it. So the post is, I've developed an MVP. Now what? Hope you guys are doing well and had a great festive season. They're opening it off with some nice pleasantries. So my team and I are close to releasing our MVP and are curious to find out how you guys have measured and analyzed the performance of your MVP releases in the past. A few more questions as opposed to the above one. 1, what mistakes did you make? 2, what did you wish you did instead? 3, what did you find was the best way to gather customer feedback? 4, what were some of the indicators that your product was not worth it? 5, when did you know it was time to move to the MMP stage? Please note the MVP is a website. So I really like the intro that you gave, and I'm really glad that we have this question for you since you're so fresh off of this topic. So I would love to hear your thoughts on any of the questions that this poster asked.
So we spent probably a solid year, if not more, thinking that we could teach ourselves how to code. That was a massive mistake. From there, we had an agreement with a CTO that we felt comfortable with. It was a side project for him. That didn't work out. So I think we've made a couple mistakes as far as both time and financially with that aspect of it. What I would say is know your limitations, know what you don't know, partner with people that you feel comfortable working with that can help, that do know, but do your research.
And I would add, so what did you find was the best way to garner customer feedback? So the mistake that we made when we were originally testing MVP number 1 was not communicating really what the goal of the application was. So since yours is a website, you really want to truly communicate the goal of the website. So if it's conversion, if it's generating phone calls, if it's engagement, whatever it is, make sure that the people know what they're supposed to be getting from it. And then the best way to garner customer feedback for us, it was Google Docs. I mean, we sent out Google surveys and it auto-populated to make it seamless. The indicators that our product was not worth it. We are hopefully not going to experience that in number 4, but we had to pivot to make some things more user friendly.
One of my favorite quotes is by Mike Tyson, and he says, "Everybody has a game plan until you get punched in the mouth." So until you get punched in the mouth, you're going to have to figure out, which way you're going to move.
Yeah, and a punch in the mouth is actually a good thing because they're preventing a future punch in the mouth when it's maybe a little bit more costly.
Right.
So it's taking a step back from this baby that you love, which is maybe the website or our application, and saying, even if it's crappy feedback, how do I take that and I say, this is going to create a better product?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I think question 4 can be augmented to be more broadly applicable, which would be, what were some indicators that a feature was not worth it? So I think everyone has been there when you're building an MVP. You're really excited about something, but the user feedback just isn't there. Your assumptions were wrong. So how do you deal with something like that?
Well, early on, we signed up for every tech incubator, every entrepreneurial boot camp, everything you could think of. So I think a lot of the feedback that we got early on kind of showed us direction as far as where we need to be. From day one, everybody said we like the concept, but initially we were really hung up on online reviews. So the communication aspect of it, specifically as far as a marketing piece, kind of showed itself as opposed to the original concept, if that makes any sense.
Well, and the original concept never really changed, but what we kind of put to the forefront of branding and messaging did. So that's what's so beneficial regarding an MVP, is it doesn't necessarily mean that you're testing 100% concrete the website or the application, but you're testing how you're framing that and how you're pitching it to customers and how you're actually retrieving your data. So you can literally do A/B testing on your actual customer discovery. Like if you tell one group of your customer discovery folks something and another group another way to look at the website, really see if they experienced anything different.
Right. Yeah, and I guess probably the greatest takeaway for me, because initially it was frustrating because this is our baby, so when you get feedback that you don't necessarily want to hear, initially it can be that punch in the mouth, but then once you sit back and think about it, it's like, no, it makes a lot of sense. So from a business standpoint, if we want this to grow legs, we're going to have to listen to somebody else. If I'm a chef in a restaurant, cooking all the food that I like doesn't necessarily equate to a successful menu. So, sometimes you're going to have to hear things that you're not going to want to hear, I guess is probably the best way to put it.
That's why I love the quote, fall in love with the problem, and fall in love with solving the problem and not the product so much, because I think you both touched on it, that like you're consumed with solving this problem that you mentioned, this disconnectedness and traveling and just cleaning up so many inefficiencies there. But I'm sure you have realized that there are a couple different ways to approach it. And while like the core product and idea hasn't changed, I'm sure the trip has changed a little bit.
Right. Oh my goodness gracious. I can't tell you how many people, especially within the tech accelerators, were like, all right, Mel, you need to pick a new elevator pitch, because we were so focused on, listen, if your beach barbecue moved from beach 1 to beach 3, wouldn't you want to know about it? And while that works for like the end user who wants to think and dream about being on vacation, if you're talking about a hotel that just came out of COVID, like, go pound salt, lady. Like, I've got a lot more bigger problems to worry about than a beach barbecue. So we've really had to kind of batten down the hatches on our messaging.
Yeah, you can definitely, I certainly can like associate a lot of ego with ideas. Like I get really attached, and when somebody's like, no, that doesn't make any sense, why are you approaching it that way? It's definitely hard to hear, but at the end of the day, like you are building it to serve the users, and if the users are telling you something, it's where you got to listen. So I definitely feel that. So this user has wrapped up development. So I guess they're about to go into the MVP process, but I'm curious to hear kind of next step, what has been the biggest lessons learned transitioning from MVP to an in the market product?
So, our approach is we try to do a lot more listening than talking when we meet with potential customers. We want to meet their needs. So part of our design process was to make it very customizable, to the individual user. Because for some places, in our realm, in the hospitality realm, some places they're still printing daily menus. So the menu option or having rotating menus and all that capability is important. For other folks, it's the guest-to-guest communication. For other folks, it's the ability for the staff to communicate with the guests. So really, we've tried to be very versatile as far as the product that we're presenting. So I think that's important. And again, we're trying to address their problems. So that's really what we're selling. So if we can sit down and ask more questions than we're answering, then I consider that a successful meeting.
Well, and I think, so transitioning from the MVP to the next stage, I believe, so you could literally sit at your desk for a week straight, 24/7, and get all of the feedback from anyone and everyone who is willing to share it with you. And there are people out there that would like to just vocalize their opinions, which is great, and they're very helpful at this current stage. But you can also get yourself spun around the axle. If you take every single piece of, if you have 1,000 people within your customer discovery universe, and you try to apply every single person's input, you're going to be just spinning your wheels.
Yeah,
so if you put them in buckets of, streamlining this and streamlining this, the buckets of information and trying to see what somebody's trying to say, it's hugely beneficial.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And we're very open to any feedback we get. However, you have to also kind of take into consideration that there are people out there that if I gave you a duffel bag with $1 million in it, they would complain that it's in 20s instead of 50s. So you have to be able to prioritize what feedback is really worthwhile.
Or, to your point, the priority of it.
Right.
Like, can you go to the next level and not necessarily make that one change? Or is it mission critical, like people aren't understanding your concept unless you change it?
Yeah. Kind of by definition, you're going to have conflicting pieces of user feedback. So how do you deal with feedback that's completely at odds with each other?
I think it's those buckets, right? So if you've got 1,000 pieces of customer discovery and 333 of them are saying, I don't understand the concept, well, then you have a bigger issue there, right? And then you have to break that bucket down. So what are the questions that go back to that bucket? Is it because I didn't describe what I'm looking for these people to find? Or is it that I'm looking for a more streamlined website, whatever? So bucket, then create the questions that created that bucket.
Yeah, and I guess how I look at it is, again, using the example, if you have 1,000 pieces of feedback and 200 people are saying, we don't understand this, versus 3 people saying, I don't understand this, well, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to satisfy everyone.
Yeah, you still have to figure out the root of the cause, right? Because one of those 3 could be somebody that would really be a valued customer of yours. But again, I think it goes back to that messaging component on, does the site or the app correctly convey what you're looking to convey?
Yeah, well, I think we did a great job of answering this question. You're welcome for the unsolicited advice, but thank you so much for giving your thoughts on this. Do you have any parting wisdom for this user?
No, just keep at it. I mean, I can't tell you, and even to John's point about us kind of stumbling through coding, not coding, well, and even God bless our tech team, I designed our website, and they told me in not many words that it sucked. So they designed one for us for free. So I completely get it. We completely get it, and just keep going. And if it's not this website that turns into fruition, obviously, there's other options out there and other ideas.
Yeah, and the piece that I would add to that is never turn down a meeting, because you never know where it's going to take you. I mean, I can tell you we've probably taken a few that didn't make sense at the moment, but then all of a sudden, hey, I have a cousin who's in this realm. I'm going to put you in contact with this person, or you never know where it's going to lead you. So,
John and Melanie, how can listeners connect with you?
Absolutely. I love that question. So they can go to our website, which is myawaytogether.com, or they can check us out on Facebook. Again, Facebook, My Away Together Facebook page. We are on Instagram at My Away Together. We are on Pinterest, which is full of exciting destinations if you wanted to browse through some pretty tropical spots. Or you can email us at mel@myawaytogether or john@myawaytogether.com.
Please go check out all of those places. And by the time this episode comes out, we will have just featured Away Together on Startup Founder Daily. So do check out that feature. But thank you to the two of you for being on the show. Hope to talk soon.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it, Luke.
The Backseat Startup Podcast is brought to you by Startup Founder Daily, a media company focused on early stage companies. To learn more or apply to be featured for free, head over to startupfounderdaily.com. You can find the link in the description below.